What up, what up, what up? It's your boy Dave B, and you're watching Dave B on TV, where we go beyond that everyday bullshit that people be consuming on a day-to-day basis. And today I want to talk about how to take our frustrations and transform them, or no, how to allow your frustrations to solve themselves. Because a lot of times in life, like, you know, one of the one of the key things, right? And I always talk about this, is the state of being that you are in. Because the state of being you're in is basically the emotional vibration that you're vibrating on, right? And now we know that life is about vibrations, waves, influence, and things of that nature. So essentially, if you're vibrating in a certain space, spiritually, this is you being in that emotional location. So wherever that emotion is, whether it's a depressing um, vibration that you stay in, which is like basically depression, being like down on yourself and things of that nature, that's like an emotional space that you are located in. And when you're in that space vibrating on that vibration and that frequency, um basically the vibration determines the frequency. So the vibration you're in determines the frequency, which is like thoughts and ideas. So the emotional state you're in influences, or it begins to vibrate and attract the ideas and thoughts of that emotional state. So if you stay in a depressing place vibrationally, right? So vibration wise, your feelings and emotions are always in a depressing location. Spiritually, you're going to be in that space vibrating, and you're going to attract more thoughts and ideas to build on top of that state of being that you're in. And that's how people end up manifesting negative things to manifest in their life, because that's basically how the world works. That's how life works. The space that you're in, state of being wise, right, wherever you're vibrating, that's where you're going to start attracting thoughts and ideas. And those thoughts and ideas, being lost in your thoughts is one of the easiest things that we can fall victim to, because your thoughts, almost like at a certain point, your thoughts could you could receive thoughts so at such a strong and rapid pace, because thoughts and ideas are light forms, but they're like the lightest form of things before they become into reality. So that's why, like, a lot of people say, mind over matter. Your thoughts are everything, because your thoughts construct this world, along with your feelings and your state of being. It starts with the state of being, though, because it's much easier. See, it's almost like this. The trick to changing anything in your life is to first change how you feel about it. So if you're not creating new feelings about whatever it is that you're trying to change, whether it's you're trying to stop an addiction or something like that, and you just can't find the way out of that loop and that cycle of continuously running to whatever drug or thing or place or person that you're addicted to. The first thing you must do is first change your feeling about it. Change your state of being about it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Well, change your state of being, but change also how you feel about that thing. And changing how you feel helps you change your perception. Changing how you feel will start to open the doorway for new kind of thoughts to come through. And then that way, more and more, you can create more separation mentally. And wherever the mind goes, the body goes later. So, but the mind has to go first. A lot of times why people still fall into certain cycles, why they keep going back to somebody who's abusive, why they keep staying in certain relationships, you know what I'm saying, way after past due, way overdue, is because they haven't changed how they feel about whatever it is that they're attached to. Whether it's they feel like they need it to survive, whether they feel like they need it to be happy. A lot of times people don't stop doing drugs because, we're all chasing a high. But when you have a feeling that, just one more time and I'm going to get that, like, you know what I'm saying, just one more hit, and I promise I'm going to get to that high. I know I can get to that high again. You got to realize that you'll never reach that high again. You got to also start to realize that you have an issue in the first place. The first step to recovery is knowing that you have a problem, because the awareness of certain things opens you up to, okay, what's really going on. And a lot of times, like, a lot of people choose ignorance, right? Because, ultimately, ignorance is a cop-out for when we don't want or have the energy to address a potential issue in our life. So a lot of times, and ignorance is like a cousin to justification, or they're linked in some kind of way, because justification, justice, even, we got to start like paying attention to some of these words that we use to explain the things going on in the world. Because when we talk about justice is just the art of justifying something, and justifying something is a demonic practice. Now, when I say a demonic practice, I'm not saying that it's good or bad. I'm not saying that it's evil and that anything involved with justice is bad or anything of that nature. I'm just saying the art, like this is as humans, right? If we're going to talk about this, we all came here with certain desires on our spirit. Our spirit got attracted to certain light forms, aka desires, and we wanted to live in that shit. That's how we came into existence. So we all came here chasing a desire or chasing a high. You know what I'm saying? Chasing that shit. And what happened is over time, by wanting to stay with these desires and not wanting things to expire, because life is transformation in and of itself. But the thing about life is that the whole idea behind it is that they found a way, right, for spirits to experience a certain thing for a longer period of time. And that long period of time became life. You know what I'm saying? And life is essentially, because when we go into higher realms and things of that nature, like spirit worlds, like the best way your ideas and things of that nature aren't spirit. Your ideas and all that shit aren't your feelings, aren't your spirit. But your spirit uses these things as light forms to create and to, you know what I'm saying, to experience and expand its awareness. But when we start getting into but ideas, thoughts, and feelings are like, they're close representations to how fast, because you know how fast you can change your mind. Like, you know how fast, you know how fast thoughts and ideas can come to you. You know how fast you can catch a feeling. Think about that, but like a million times faster as far as spirit world. So spirits essentially, because they live in such a rapid pace, you know, that's also known as like chaos, right? Since they live in a state of chaos and constant change, they didn't have a way to actually sit and experience something for a long period of time. You know, and that's how life came about, because spirits figured out a way, okay, let's make this time period of experiencing something longer. And it kind of just went out of hand. And that's why, you know, we live in a world now where we spend a lot of times trying to manifest things, but it feels like it takes a lot longer for certain things to come to existence. When we come from a place like spiritually where you can snap your fingers and things can basically appear, you know what I'm saying, based upon your vibration and your thought form about it. But, you know, we and then on top of that, we live in a world inside of a world. What I mean by that is like the world, like how we perceive it through the eyes of the government, right? And how we understand society and even history to some degree. All of that shit is somebody else's, like a group of spirits worldview that they created and convinced a lot of us that that's how the world works, when actually the world doesn't work like how they're saying it works. You know what I'm saying? The world is, you know, when we start talking about real spirituality and real God and things of that nature, it's like the realm of all possibilities. But this is just one group of spirits worldview of how to see the world. And they divided it in a way to make you think that there are a bunch of different, you know, worldviews, aka different religions and things of that nature. But you know, this is why that once you start to dive into these religions, they all say the same kind of things. They all have the same themes, same principles, same virtues, and same stories. You know, whether there's always a flood or always some kind of things, like things of that nature. You know what I'm saying? So all of that shit goes into the world that someone else has constructed, and this is why, you know, I like to like that's why I've dedicated this channel to just spiritual empowerment, so that we can allow ourselves to see beyond what's right in front of us, blocking our view. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people can't see past that first threshold, and that's what I kind of, you know, I try to attack things from a perspective and an angle that you can kind of start to see around it and see, oh, well, hold on, maybe, you know, maybe things aren't exactly how you know what I'm saying, how I thought, you know what I'm saying? And so, and you know, ultimately, I'm not really trying to teach anything. I'm not trying to preach. I'm just trying to, you know, like, I don't know, share experiences and connect with people, and you know, we could all contribute into making this world a better place by just allowing us to like remind ourselves of our power and taking that power back into our hands, so that we can create the life that we wish to live. Because you know, it's your birthright to be able to manifest the world that you want to live in, you know what I'm saying, for yourself, you know what I'm saying. But when we start to get into certain things like certain spirits, because what it is they constructed that worldview, and then they finessed everybody into agreeing to build that world for them, aka while we have jobs that we feel unfulfilled in, and while we have certain obligations and responsibilities, we got to get a license and we got to get all these registrations at the second moment instance that we're born. And it's like, life doesn't have to be like that. Why do we have to do all these loops and holes and jump through all these things in order to just live? Why do we have to pay to live? You know, concepts like these aren't natural, and that's the whole point. And it's not about running to nature to try to escape society. It's about standing up and taking our power back and saying, no, this isn't right. I'm a powerful spirit, and this is the life that I want to live, and I don't have to abide by these bullshit rules by some group of spirits just trying to finesse their worldview and convince me that the only way I can live and make a living, earn a living, is by building their world. And then I still got to pay taxes in their world, when the richest people in the world, the people who run the world, don't have to pay for anything. You know what I'm saying? Poverty, hunger shouldn't exist, because we all have the right to eat in our basic needs. You know what I'm saying? That shit's stupid. You know what I'm saying? If things like the systems and shit like that, government and all that shit really cared about us, we wouldn't have to pay all these damn bills. Like, it wouldn't be a thing to pay bills just to fucking drink some water. Like, you know, a water bill, light bill, all that shit. It wouldn't be like that. It wouldn't be a thing where we have to go broke spending our life savings on a medicine that literally will grant us like, you allow us to live, aka medications. People who are diabetic, people who are, you know what I'm saying, cancer patients, all that shit. You know what I'm saying? It'd be impoverished areas that get infected with this kind of shit, right? Disease and all kinds of crazy shit, right? Based upon, right? It'd be those poor areas. And it'd be other areas too, but I'm just saying, like, it'd be impoverished areas that get really hit hard with certain things, and diabetes and high blood pressure, all these things, and they have to go through systems where they have to pay millions and millions of dollars, and they're not even making enough to make ends meet, but they have to go deep in debt just to pay for shit so they can live. Just to pay for the right medications, when if the government really cared about our shit, right, really cared about us, it would be a regulated system where everyone gets whatever medications they need for free. It wouldn't even be nothing like that. You know what I'm saying? And like, people start to get weird and want to like be like justify, oh well, if everything was free, who would work at these jobs and who would do that? And this is like, nah, you running into the loop. Money itself is a created fucking thing for us to be stuck in. You know what I'm saying? But this video ain't even about that shit. As y'all can see, I have a lot on my heart. Like, you know, not too much on my heart to where it's weighing me down, but I have a lot of, you know what I'm saying? I just want better. You know, I want better for my people, and I want us to not have to go through certain things. Like, you know, when I see this shit, it does make me feel some kind of way, because it's just kind of fucked up how they, you know, how deep all the reverse psychology really goes. But back to the topic of this video about how to allow frustrations to solve themselves. So essentially, you know, it goes back to what I was saying earlier about identifying the issue. So number one, identify the trigger, the issue at hand. You know what I'm saying? What is it that's causing that frustration? Because a lot of times, like I said, a lot of times we can say you have a dog, right? My dog is a perfect example, right? And say every time your dog whines, right, you get irritated. So it's like a second he makes a sound or she makes a sound, it's like you get irritated, right? So off the bat, that's a frustration. So what you got to do is you got to identify the trigger. What is it that's causing you to get pissed off? And then, okay, every time he or she whines, that's the trigger, right? So you've identified the issue. Boom. All right. So the next step is to trace it back to your connection. So this is how you relate, or or the reaction caused by whatever it is that's triggering you. So how you relate to it and the reaction caused, right? So this is tapping into your moon. So you have to trace it back. So the whining irritates me, right? Why does the whining irritate me? So, okay, well, every time the dog whines, it makes me feel like I'm not doing enough to care for the dog. And I start to, so right there, that's how I relate to it. Okay, I relate to that trigger because it's like, it's almost like they're whining and I feel like I can't provide them with the right resources for them to not have to whine and things of that nature, right? So that's and then the reaction caused is you to feel frustrated. But now we're starting to unpack why the frustration is even taking place in the first place. You've identified the trigger, the thing that's causing you that frustration, and now you're tracing it back and jumping into your moon and saying, okay, well, why am I even reacting to this in the first place? And the good, if you do want to mix it with astrology, you can start looking at your moon sign and be like, okay, so the moon sign will tell you kind of how you react to certain things. So if you have a fire moon, the way you react to this frustration is through trying to express it. So off the bat, you're starting to see, and this kind of leads you into the third step, which is assessing the solution, right? Or well, this is still in the second step, because what you're doing is you're realizing what the trigger is doing to you. So every time the whine happens, you get frustrated, and now you want to lash out at the dog, whether it's yell at the dog, tell it to shut up, or if you're an air sign, yeah, maybe you might start overthinking about all the things that you can't do for the dog, and so now you're double frustrated and you're talking to yourself and you're having these arguments with yourself, or maybe you get cloudy thoughts because now you're feeling certain ways and getting thoughts and ideas off of these feelings. If you're an air moon, or if you're a water moon, now you start to feel guilty or something like that. You start to feel shame and guilt. That's a pathway to aggression too. You know what I'm saying? It's easy to get kind of lost in shame and guilt, and now you feel guilty every time the dog whines. But that guilt might be filtered in a way of you acting out in frustration and anger and things of that nature. And same thing with fire. Fire moon, you might want to lash out, yell at the dog. I said that already. In earth, you might you might start to get insecure and feel, you know what I'm saying, just kind of like, or just want to shut the dog up entirely and completely ignore the dog. And so you might do something neglectful, or, you know what I'm saying, or you might just be like, wanting to punish the dog in a physical way, maybe like take away his, like I'm getting far off with it, but this is how certain things, just an analogy, but this is how certain things can like multiply over time. So it's good to, with any frustration, like frustrations really be the keys to knowing ourselves, because our frustrations is things that we've maybe carried on either from childhood trauma or past life shit that we're here to solve through, to work out and solve. So, anger and frustration triggers are always a good link to some of those deep rooted issues that you here to work out and things of that nature. So let's go back over it. So identifying the trigger, now tracing it back to your connection to it. So this is just how you connect to it. So what is it actually doing to you? What is it making? What is that trigger? Why is it making you react in the way that you're reacting? Right now, once you've done that, the third is to assess the solution. So is it avoidable? Is it an over exaggeration? Can you remove it? So this is like looking at the situation from a third eye view. You know what I'm saying? Where you're kind of, okay, you're now you know your personal connection to it. So now let's separate from that. So how can we avoid this? Okay, well, if you see that the dog whines only when it's during a certain time of day, you can make sure you can make that time of day playtime. Or if the dog is whining and maybe you take it a certain way, right? Maybe you are receiving something in a certain way. You think that every time the dog whines, it's trying to tell you that you are insufficient as a caretaker, or you're not actually taking care of the dog, right? Maybe every time the dog whines, or you could be like, I don't know, you can try to accommodate the dog more. You can be like, what is it that the dog is actually whining for? Maybe the dog is, what I'm saying? Like, it's like kind of like you have to play with it like that. You have to be like, okay, well, assess the possible solutions. Like, maybe the dog needs to be fed. Maybe I just need to take the dog out for a walk around that time. Maybe that's what they want. Maybe they want attention. Maybe I can give them attention. Or maybe the dog is spoiled. Maybe I actually just need to put the dog up, and maybe I need to take a nap. It just needs to be nap time. Or maybe let the dog take a nap, and if he whines, okay, that's fine. It's just nap time right now. You know what I'm saying? Things like that. Assessing the solution, seeing if you can avoid it. Because now that you know the trigger, see, like it goes back to what I was saying in the beginning of the video. Your state of being is in question here, because your state of being is being disturbed whenever the trigger goes off. And now you have to and then this goes into changing how you feel about the whole situation. That's that second step too. by tracing your connection to it, you can start to adjust how you feel. Okay, I start to feel like I'm the reason, and actually this is the fourth step. I'm over here, you know what I'm saying? But like, let's keep on going with it. So you've identified the trigger, which is infiltrating and and affecting your state of being, right? And then the second is tracing it back to your connection to it. So now you know how you relate to it. So now that you know how you relate to it and you're starting to figure out why it's causing a certain reaction from you, now you can go ahead and assess the solution. What can I do to change this? Maybe there's a certain schedule thing I need to change. Maybe the dog is actually asking for something for me to change. And then maybe I just need to accommodate new shit for the dog. Maybe I need to make more time for my dog if that's what you want to do. You know what I'm saying? Because at this point, it has to be your choice. You know, I can't tell you what to do. And this is just an analogy anyway, but you know what I'm saying? It's kind of helping me string everything along, right? And you can apply this to anything in your life, you know, not just this situation particularly. And so, and then the last thing is exactly what I said in the beginning of the video, changing your reaction towards the trigger, towards whatever situation it is. Now that you've taken time to see what you can possibly do to solve it, and you've understood and overstood your reaction and your connection to whatever it is that's triggering you. And this is tracing it back to a trauma, tracing it back to something that maybe in a past life occurred, and how we can see, since past life shit is basically just whatever we're emotionally connected to, but we don't have any. Say you came into this life and you just love soccer, right? You don't know why, but you just love it for some reason. That's like like that could be a sense of your past life, in a sense where maybe you did something similar in a past life or something of that nature. You know what I'm saying? Things that we're strongly connected to emotionally, but haven't physically done maybe or experienced in this lifetime. So, and then last but not least, changing your whole reaction to it. Now that you've identified everything, you can start to make strides. And this isn't easy. It sounds easy, but it's really hard, because you know your emotions happen so fast. You know, in this world, your emotional world and your thought world, these happen so fast, so rapid, that before you know it, you can be on a downward slope. And you know what I'm saying, before you know it, you picking at everything. And like, Scorpios do this a lot. Like, I'm a Scorpio rising, so I know about this shit. Like, sometimes we can start to hate things, but like it starts off as a joke. And I think a little, because I got my Mercury in Aquarius, so it might be like a combination of those two energies. But it's like you can start to nitpick at things, and like, you know, Scorpios and Aquarius already kind of feel like it's almost like an uppity feeling. It's not really like that, but it's almost like a, well, I wouldn't do that shit. Or we start to look at everything from the perspective of shit that we would never do, or shit that we like low-key be judging. You know what I'm saying? Low-key be like, man, what are you doing? You're an idiot. Or that's stupid. I wouldn't think like that. You know, on the Aquarius end, like, that's dumb. I wouldn't think like that. This person is talking about something they don't know about, right? And before you know it, you spent your whole day kind of nitpicking, and it started off as just jokes and like, you know, laughing and being like, you know, sarcastic. But what happens is it starts to become the language that you resonate with in your mind, and see that becomes how you start to talk about things. And it's like it kind of programs you to kind of be negative and things of that nature. And then that can seep into other areas in your life to where you start acting negative towards other people, and you can start expressing how you actually think about certain things and how you feel about things, and it can come off very snarky. And like, before you know it, you start to manifest whether it's people, places, or things in your life that actually give you back that same negative energy, that nitpicking energy that makes the Scorpio feel vulnerable, or makes the Aquarius feel dumb or less than. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you got to be careful with that. So you can start to get into a downward spiral, and we all do this. You know, it's not just those two signs, but those two signs I have experience with, so I know like kind of how that shit leads and shit like that. But you know, for the most part. But yeah, that's the thing. You know, you got to change it. You know what I'm saying? You got to, and it's going to be an ongoing battle, but just slowly but surely start. So whenever the dog whines, now you change your feeling about it. Oh, the dog is not whining because I'm inadequate as a caretaker. The dog may just be whining because it's hungry, or it wants to play right now, or he wants to be taken outside or something like that. You know, and it's like you have to play with life like this, because you know damn well the dog isn't like, you know, nagging at you, but sometimes we can catch feelings like this or just develop perceptions about certain things like this. So whether it's a person, it could be a person, and the way they're talking to you, you might think that they hate you, but in reality, that's just how they talk, maybe. Or maybe they are dealing with something within themselves that they haven't come to the conclusion, or maybe they are actively fighting and you just don't know about, you know. So it kind of is also a situation where you have to remove some of that personal connection, and that's the whole point of it, to help you remove some of that personal connection so you don't take everything so personal, so that you can actually expand and grow through certain experiences rather than allowing them to feel like you're being attacked. Because sometimes we can develop perceptions, and these developed in, you know, if not taken care of, these can develop into mental mental instabilities, or mental I don't know the right word I'm looking for, but like mental illness, or like mental mistakes that we can jump into, where we start to develop false perceptions about how other people perceive us. And that's kind of like, you know what I'm saying, that can lead to you wanting to seek validation. That can lead to narcissism, because you feel like you have to build yourself up more so you can, you know, defend yourself from those insecurities and things of that nature. So, you know, it's a tricky game when we start talking about this kind of shit. But this is, and ultimately, and what I mean by allow those frustrations to solve themselves, like what happens is, by changing your feeling about certain frustrations, what'll happen is, like I spoken about in the beginning, you know, we create the reality that we want to manifest. Like, we create the reality, but based upon the states of being that we're in, and that states of being attracts thought forms and ideas that give us certain insights and inspiration in areas of life that we need to walk in. And that becomes how we can use intuition to map out our spiritual path. You know what I'm saying? That spiritual mapping system and shit like that. That spiritual GPS. And now you can walk forward in your spiritual path, right? But along the way, it's like, you know, these frustrations a lot of times pop up as roadblocks and things of that nature. But by allowing ourselves to change how we see certain roadblocks, we can then develop ideas to get around them. And then before we know it, these things that frustrated us to our core can start to dissipate, and we can start actually seeing more of those positive things and positive representations in our life that actually help us along our way. You know what I'm saying? And this is how you get connected to your spirit guides and all that. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, and that's basically it. And I just want to reiterate my point earlier about ignorance is a cop out for when we don't want or have the energy to address a potential issue in our life. So a lot of times we'll choose to be blind to certain things because we just don't have the energy for it. And how can we, in a world where they constantly hit you with so many things to affect your emotions and feelings and thought forms, to wear you out, wear you down to the point where you don't have enough strength to actually go for what it is that you want, or to even deal with these things? Because if you're exhausted all the time, you're not even going to have the emotional patience to spot and identify something that is a potential trigger or is a trigger in your life. And that's how you get abuse, you know, cycles of abuse that pass on from generations to generations and shit like that. And we got to stop that shit. This is the time we have to come together. And the only way we can come together and make this world a better place is if we heal ourselves on some internal shit and actually grow individually, and actually tap into our own, create our own individual spiritual systems that we can actually conduct ourselves in an efficient way, in a way that isn't stepping on other people's toes, or isn't constantly avoiding issues and dumping emotional weight on others. You know what I'm saying? We all got to hold each other accountable, and we all got to expand and be better as individuals. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, I hope that was helpful. Much love, and I'm going to catch y'all on the next one.